Samsung Mobile chief DJ Koh announced a global recall meant to save the Galaxy Note 7. Instead, Samsung lost $5.3 billion in 53 days. The replacement phone caught fire too, proving the company had fixed the battery it suspected without understanding the failure that was actually killing the product. That contradiction turned a difficult recall into something much worse. On October 5th, a replacement Note 7 began smoking aboard a Southwest Airlines flight while the plane was still at the gate. The phone was reportedly powered off. Everyone evacuated. And here is the detail that changes the entire story. The original phones and the replacement phones did not share the same defect. Two batteries failed in two different ways, and Samsung's emergency fix connected them. The Note 7 arrived in North America on August 19, 2016, just weeks before Apple's iPhone 7. Samsung had skipped the name Note 6 so its flagship lines would match. The message was obvious. This was not a side product. This was Samsung's best phone, arriving at exactly the moment it could steal Apple's launch. Early reviews loved it. Time gave the phone 4.5 stars. In South Korea, Samsung took roughly 200,000 pre-orders in 2 days, a record pace. Demand was strong enough to create shortages, and the hardware earned that excitement. The Note 7 had a curved display, water resistance, iris scanning, the S Pen, and a 3,500 mAh battery inside a body thinner than the previous Note. Every millimeter was doing work. That was the achievement. It was also where the safety margin disappeared. A lithium polymer battery is not a solid block. Inside is a flattened roll of positive and negative electrode layers, separated by thin polymer sheets soaked in electrolyte. Ions are supposed to cross the separator. The electrodes are not. If those electrodes touch, the current takes a shortcut. Heat rises, the separator degrades, and the reaction feeds itself. Engineers call it thermal runaway. A pocket-sized battery can turn into its own furnace. Phones make this harder because batteries swell slightly through normal charging and use. A designer needs room for that movement. Teardown engineers at Instrumental argued that the Note 7 had designed out too much of that room. Its battery nearly filled a precisely machined pocket, while the cell itself was being pushed for maximum capacity. Samsung's later investigation focused on the cells rather than declaring the phone enclosure the sole cause. But the engineering tension was visible. More energy, less volume, and less tolerance when manufacturing drifted. Then manufacturing drifted. Samsung launched the Note 7 with batteries from two suppliers. The first group, commonly called Battery A, came from Samsung SDI. In those cells, the pouch could be too tight at an upper corner. The negative electrode bent where it should have remained flat. That tiny deformation mattered because the positive and negative layers were now being pushed toward each other. If the separator failed, the cell shorted internally. The phone heated, smoked, or burned. By September 2nd, Samsung had received 35 reports of battery problems. Koh announced that about 2.5 million phones would be recalled. Customers could get a refund or a replacement. Samsung described the issue as an isolated battery cell problem, and the remedy followed that diagnosis. Move away from the suspect cells and ship phones with batteries from the other supplier. It sounded decisive. Within weeks, roughly 500,000 replacement units reached U.S. stores. A green battery icon told owners they had the safe version. But a green icon was not a safety test. The second supplier was Amperex Technology. Its batteries had not produced the original pattern, so Samsung increased production there to feed the replacement program. That ramp created a different problem. Some battery B cells had oversized weld burrs. A sharp piece of metal left by the weld could penetrate the insulating material and reach the negative electrode. Investigators also found cells missing insulation tape. The first battery could fail because an electrode bent in a cramped corner. The second could fail because a weld-pierced protection that should have kept the layers apart. Different defect, same short circuit, same fire. That is the middle of this story that gets lost in the headline. Samsung did not simply fail to replace a known bad battery. It replaced one failure mechanism with another while moving at recall speed. The company had solved its theory of the problem. It had not proved the replacement system was safe at production scale. On September 20th, replacements began reaching stores. By late September, Samsung said around 60% of recalled phones in the United States and South Korea had been exchanged. Owners saw the green battery icon and carried on. Then came October 5th. A replacement phone owned by Brian Green started smoking on Southwest Flight 994 in Louisville. It was reportedly powered down. The cabin filled with smoke before takeoff, and 75 people left the plane. Within days, reports of other replacement phones followed. Carriers stopped selling the Note 7. AT&T and T-Mobile stopped issuing replacements. The Consumer Product Safety Commission warned owners to power down even the supposedly fixed devices. Think about what that meant operationally. Samsung now had a safety incident, a global reverse logistics operation, and a second incident population hiding inside the remedy for the first. Serial numbers and green icons could separate old phones from new ones. They could not guarantee that either production process had enough margin. On October 11th, Samsung permanently ended production. The timeline is brutal. August 19th, launch, September 2, recall, October 5th, replacement fire, October 11th, production ended. The Note 7 had been on sale in North America for 53 days. Samsung recalled about 2.5 million original phones. The later U.S. recall covered roughly 1.9 million devices, including about 900,000 replacements. Investigators recorded 13 burn reports and 47 reports of property damage in the United States. Airlines eventually banned the phone from flights. The financial numbers arrived just as quickly. Samsung cut its quarterly operating profit guidance by roughly a third. Analysts estimated billions in lost sales. The expected profit impact reached $5.3 billion. Some remaining owners still would not return the phone, so Samsung escalated from warnings to software restrictions. In some markets, it disabled network service. In the United States, a final update was designed to stop the device from charging. A premium flagship had become a product its own manufacturer was remotely trying to make unusable. Samsung could end production in a day. Understanding why it had failed took much longer. Samsung assigned 700 researchers and engineers to the investigation. They tested 200,000 phones and 30,000 batteries, working with UL Exponent and TUV Rhineland. The final report confirmed the two distinct battery failures. That investigation was enormous, but notice when it happened: after 2 recalls, after the flight evacuation, and after the product was dead. The post-crisis response became more systematic. Samsung introduced an 8-point battery safety check that included durability testing, X-ray inspection, charge and discharge testing, visual inspection, disassembly, accelerated use testing, voltage checks, and checks for volatile compounds. It also formed an outside battery advisory group. Those controls were not magic. They were layers, each aimed at catching a different route to the same dangerous outcome. That is exactly what the replacement program had lacked. So what actually killed the Note 7? Not one careless weld, not one bent electrode. Those explain individual cells, but they do not explain how the recall failed. Samsung treated the first supplier as the root cause. Once battery A looked guilty, battery B became the answer. But safety engineering cannot stop at proving which component failed yesterday. It has to ask every credible way the system could fail tomorrow, especially when production volume changes under pressure. The replacement battery passed the wrong question. It was different from battery A. It was not proven safe across the full manufacturing ramp. Compare that with Samsung's later 8-point process. X-rays look for one class of defect. Durability tests look for another. Accelerated use tests create stress that a clean lab sample may never see. The process tests the failure envelope, not just the last failure. That is the deeper lesson. A successful root cause analysis explains the incident. A successful validation system survives the next variation. If you are shipping hardware, do not ask only whether you fixed the defect you found. Ask what changed in the supplier, tooling, volume, handling, or environment while you were fixing it. Then test the entire system at the worst credible edge, not the perfect sample in the middle. Samsung's mistake was not that two batteries failed, it was believing the second battery was safe, because it failed differently. If you think Samsung moving too fast was expensive, wait until you see how BlackBerry waited too long and erased $80 billion. That story is on screen now.